Hello everybody and welcome back to Final Fantasy IV. So we got Edward, who is a bard, which is a class that first appeared in Final Fantasy III. And I would be much happier if this was the Final Fantasy III version of the bard. In fact, I'd want him in the party more often. So here are his stats, such as they are. Well, that's what we have to work with, folks. Okay, so the Antlion cave is nothing special as a dungeon. And it's a good thing, too, because otherwise we'd have a pretty bad time. I left this encounter in to show one of the problems with Edward. Okay, Rydia kills the elf. The goblin, and so does Edward? Edward just got out-muscled by a 7-year-old girl mage. Okay, so Edward's abilities are Sing, which applies a status ailment to one enemy based on the status ailment that's already attached to his weapon. In this case, it would be Sleep. Oh yeah, Ice Rod is good for saving MP. He also has Hide, which allows him to stay out of danger. And that's about it. He will automatically use it when he has low HP, and you can't really do much to bring him back into battle. Because if you try to bring him out, he'll just hide again. And there's also an ability which was cut from this version called Salve. Salve was an ability that took a potion and split the healing between all of your party members. It's not actually that useful, because if you're using healing, it's because your characters have taken damage that can't be cured by a split potion. And more jellies. Yeah, the Flan-type enemies first showed up in Final Fantasy II, much like many other things in Final Fantasy that hate players. In fact, one of the defining features of Final Fantasy II is that the final boss had the same physical defense as Flan-type enemies. Back attack. The thing is, the Final Fantasy III bards actually had some very powerful and useful abilities. Its base abilities were Scare, which could reduce enemy levels and thus enemy stats, Cheer, which buffed the entire party, and Sing, which produced effects based on what weapon the bard was wielding, on what harp they were wielding. However, it wasn't a straight version of an ability that was attached to the harp they were wielding. It was abilities like Cast Protect on the entire party. Yeah, even a weapon upgrade only makes Edward a little less useless. Though the Charm Harp's effect is actually much more powerful than Sleep. And hello, save point. And goodbye, save point. So yeah, the power of the Bard was drastically reduced in this Final Fantasy game. The later re-releases tried to fix that by giving Edward in the endgame a dragon-slaying harp that did enormous damage to certain powerful endgame enemies. However, nothing could cure the problems with Edward's durability, really. Really, Edward ends up just being much more helpful when he's out of the party than when he's in it. So what you saw is what Charm does. It's the Confuse attack. It makes enemies sometimes attack each other or themselves. And sometimes those hits can be pretty nasty because, as established before, monsters have pretty much no defense. Aside from Flans, of course. And Rydia learned Warp. Warp is a very useful spell if you want to break the plot of the game, but not for that much else. It just returns you to the previous room that you had passed through in a dungeon. And no chest here. And there we go. And that's pretty much the whole Antlion cave. There are 3 or 4 rooms and the boss room. Well, this looks vocal. Oh yeah, Rydia's casting started doing as much damage as Tella's did, and her magic stats are now about equal to what Tella's were. So that didn't take long. Also, from the description before, I'm beginning to think that the Sand Ruby is the same kind of thing as the Dragon Diamond from Lunar. Alright, the Antlion. This boss exists to teach you about counters. It doesn't attack on its own very often, but every time you hit it with anything, it does a counterattack that can actually be kinda worrisome sometimes. Of course, that means having Edward attack will actually do more harm than good. So your primary offense is basically Cecil, and even mostly Rydia, because Chocobo Kick does quite a lot of damage. For reasons that I do not know. So Edward is basically just on healing duty. Now, if we did the Mist Skip earlier, we would have been able to buy the Dancing Dagger, which would actually turn Edward into a very powerful character. But we're not doing that, so we're stuck with stock Edward. I think Final Fantasy II is the only game I can think of where monsters are is the only Final Fantasy game I can think of where monsters are an explicitly supernatural, unnatural phenomenon, because monsters didn't really exist in the world until they were called in by the Emperor. Anyway, since we don't have the exit spell, we have to walk our way all the way back to the entrance. Well, I've never turned down experience. Dragon Slayer: The Legend of Heroes was not a game you should play if you completely detest grinding. In fact, this game might actually be more your speed. Because during my practice run, which only took about 16 hours or so, the only place I really had to grind was just before the final boss. And Edward ran and hid because he took too many punches. Okay, so now it's time to head back to Kaibo. And thanks to the way vehicles work in this game, we won't be encountering any resistance. In Final Fantasy I, you could get random encounters when you were using the ship and the canoe, but the hovercraft is mercifully monster-free. Though the ultimate 16-bit RPG for vehicle combat would still be Phantasy Star 4. I have played 2 RPGs with the number 4 at the end. And there we go. So Rosa went looking for us. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, about the other crystals. Two down and 2 to go. Yeah, that sounds like a problem. Yeah, if you have been paying attention, Rydia has a lot of other black magic spells, but not the fire spell yet. Even though it's one of the most basic things a mage can learn. It was a first level spell in Final Fantasy I. Okay, Rosa is a White Wizard, which was a class in Final Fantasy I, and I like how they made it White Wizard to show that she's a cut above the rando black and white mages that we see roaming around. Because the White Wizard was the class promotion of the White Mage. No, a critic! Okay, this water hag actually has about 8,000 hit points. It's just set to die after 3 attacks. However, this fight can actually be a problem for speedrunners, because the way speedruns work, this water hag actually has a rather non-zero chance of killing Edward. So, be careful of that. Arg. And there's another level for us. That was basically our plan all along, but thanks for the reminder. She just told you. Alright, let's go. And let's equip Rosa. But first, formation stuff. We want all of these casters and Edward in the back row. We also want to equip Rosa with a little better armor and the crossbow that we found in Damsian Castle. Ruby Ring gives better magic defense, but we don't want to equip those quite yet. There are a couple of places that we want the Ruby Ring for, but this isn't one of them. Yeah, I suppose the hovercraft is supposed to be this game's equivalent of the canoe, which was used in earlier Final Fantasy games, 1 and 2 mainly to cross shallow waters. And throw down a save there. It's not in her spell list. She didn't pick it as a known spell by level. Well, can't really blame her for that. But Rydia does understand. Hey, that's not a time magic spell. In fact, time magic didn't exist until Final Fantasy V. Well, anyway, that's it for this one, and I will be seeing you next time with Mount Hobbs. Bye!